I know there's a narrative on Ted Bundy, and I hear it over. I'm facing like 100,000 people who have a set-in narrative. I've told you again. In June of 1967, Debbie and I walked up to summer band. It was going to be 6 weeks. I believe it was around June 5th. But what I didn't realize was, excuse me, it didn't have to be 5 days a week. Being as it was summer band, it may have just been 3 days a week, which shows some intermittent time so we wouldn't run into this freak again. Another thing was the little red shirt that I mentioned from Daytona. This is what I think happened. We ran into him. We're off Thursday or Friday. I go down to Kathleen's and I say, I've written about this in my diary. And Debbie happened to be on the corner of that fence. She says, no, you can't write it in your diary. Your mom will read your diary and we'll get in big trouble. We hitchhike and he displayed a gun. We hitchhike and he displayed a gun. You have to rip it out. And I did that. The little red T-shirt I didn't have, the little red, I call it surfer shirt. What I think my dad did that year was my mom's brother, my Uncle Walter, and Doris or Francine, he was married twice, were down in Daytona. He worked for Daytona 500. I think my father would normally take 2 weeks, but I think he took 1 week in the beginning of summer, and then in August, my grandmother, Aunt Opal, and Aunt Bobby and probably Jerry and Shirley drove down from Memphis and Faulkner, Mississippi to visit. So he took another part of a week later. I'm in a picture with them at Mayport Naval Station wearing that red shirt. I still have the pedal pushers that were cut off and frayed, but I had the red shirt and a straw fedora. I got those in Daytona. Well, I'm thinking, how did I get to Daytona? Because I must have missed 1 week of the 6-week summer course. And I knew that I was going out of town. Chances are Debbie would have ridden with her sister during the next week when we were out of town. We would have gone Saturday, Sunday, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday. It's only 90 miles away, Daytona. And I remember my mom let me get 2 or 3 things. I got a little troll thing from the boardwalk, those little troll things about this big, with the elfin face and rubber, they were a big thing, the trolls. And there was a place called Rat Fink. Yeah, Rat Fink. And the red T-shirt, back then, if you had a Woolworths, like a Kmart, but Woolworths, they'd have a section, like if you were a Dolphin and you're in Miami, you could get a Dolphin T-shirt. If you're in Daytona, you could get a souvenir T-shirt. I chose the surfer shirt because that was another thing I wanted to do, is be a surfer. But anyway, so after the incident, Debbie makes me rip the page out. I don't care what she's doing or why she's having histrionics. I'm going out of town. I might have said something like, well, let your sister drive you, because Vicky drove us sometimes. Vicky was a middle sister, and she had like a Ford Falcon Valiant, a white Valiant. Jeannie had a pink, I thought it was a pink Mustang. I don't know why I thought that. She worked at Southern Bell, the sister that was like 1 year. And this is another thing, okay? Why can't somebody investigate Debbie, her 2 daughters, her husband's deceased now, the sisters in her 70s, Vicky and Jeannie, friends from high school. Let me think of some friends. Rebecca Clemency was one. Mary Napolitano, of course, Rebecca's a Schumann now. She's related to the former mayor. She's a doctor. Gregory Parker lived 2 houses down. Sylvia Mock Dexter lived across the street. And she had a similar situation because there was an older sister, a middle sister, and a younger sister. And then, of course, they had Chucky. But, I mean, it was like 3 girls. So they're diagonally across from Debbie. And they went into nursing, too. So they may have watched what was going on. Sylvia went to summer band, too. Something happened to Sylvia that summer, and her mother said she was going to drive her to school. I never understood. I said, oh, Sylvia's being driven. Because, I mean, I'm wondering, why didn't she walk with us, too? Of course, Debbie's family was, we were wild. We were wild teenagers, like preteens, really. Okay, that's one. To Diane Edwards out in California. She's still living. She apparently let him use her credit card that summer. Now, you or I who say, okay, I've got a boyfriend and he's struggling student. I'm going to let him use my credit card for incidentals. If it's too late to get a meal, maybe he uses a vending. Well, it wouldn't work like that, but maybe he goes to the cafeteria and uses my credit card because it's late and he can't get any food anywhere else. So $5 here, a pair of socks there. Maybe they say you need the text guide. It's $15.99. I've got the textbook. You're going to have to get the guide, and he didn't realize he's going to have to get the guide, so it's $15.99. I'm trying. I know the figures are not going to be the same nowadays as they were in 1967, but she's fully accepting in today's dollars maybe $100 or $200 that he uses because he need to get a pen set, or there's a parking pass, or who knows what. So she's figuring $100 or $200. This is a question that can be asked to her today. Was it an exorbitant amount, like $900 or $1,000? She said, "Oh my God, what in the world were you doing with my credit card?" Because she's thinking it's just going to be a crutch. It's just going to be, you know, maybe need to get a pillowcase, or you know what I'm saying. He's down there. Maybe he's got to get breakfast somewhere. So she's thinking $100 or $200, and he walks up and there's $900 on her bill. Can she remember that? The scholarship, National Defense Scholarship, that sent him to Stanford because of Sputnik. It was a scholarship that were given to people, full ride scholarship. I've never had a full ride scholarship. That means they got the tuition paid for the 8-week course that he was going to Stanford. He also got room and board. There's probably still a handful of people that were in these type of classes. Can you ask them? It was for science, 2 languages, I guess, Chinese and Russian, and math courses, okay? There's got to be people that are still living, and you could ask them, how did you receive your funds? The tuition was paid for, and you received funds. Did you get an individual check sent up in May of 67, and then that would be for your room and board? In other words, you would pay to be in the dormitory and would pay to have food. And usually they're pretty generous. So I've seen per diem before, and it's usually pretty generous. So maybe he had his hands on that. Remember, he was in some kind, I don't know, with Puget Sound or Washington, but he dropped out in March, and the class were over in April. So he had to withdraw from the classes. Was he on a scholarship then too and got some money back for his books and things? I don't know. He drops out. Now, that struck me as odd because he's trying to impress this woman, Diane Edwards, and the first thing he does right off the bat is drop out of the school. I don't think Bundy ever wanted to go to college, honestly. I think it was there, and his mom, you're going to go, and he said, yeah. But he was really just a con and a freak. I could go into details, but I mean, you think about it. He didn't want to go to college, is the bottom line. In a psychology degree, his mother had keys to the University of Washington, wherever she worked as a secretary there, and his girlfriend had keys to the medical side, which is aligned with the psychology side, if you think about it. He could have easily gone in and have seen the test, and when his con, he said, well, I'm going to put in some effort. Yeah, by stealing the grades and stuff, probably. That may be how he graduated, and then he had the assist of Elizabeth Clover, who probably was like a tutor to him. So then he managed to eke out a BA in psychology. The red Volkswagen in the Virginia Helms case here in Jacksonville, and people say, no, he was in Northwest killing people. And you can see he went to this Murray gas station on the 26th and 28th, and she died on the 27th. It's impossible. No, actually, it isn't. He had committed Lake Sammamish, and I think he took out of Washington. It was just too close. They had the picture of him. They had the description of his vehicle. They had his name. And he was finishing up a job in Olympia. I guess from Seattle to Olympia, he had to go. And that last week, he tells Liz, I want to borrow your Volkswagen for some, I don't understand the reason. And she said it's in chapter 8 of the Phantom Prince. Chapter 8, the last few paragraphs, she says that she used his Chevron card. Well, you've committed a double homicide. Are you really going to want to put your financial things out there to somebody you're not related to, even though he was dating her? He did it. He tried it, and it worked. And she bought gas twice for him. A month later, he's in Utah. Could he have talked to Marjorie Vaughn and had her use the credit card? If he had 4 or 5 days in a row, he could have easily flown down and tried to. I think he was trying to reenact the fact that me and Debbie got away, and he was going to make up for it. And the little girl over in Beechwood area, or Beach Bel Air off of Beach Boulevard, she says, I saw it was a red Volkswagen. She saw a red compact car. Then the little girl goes missing. She went up to the store to buy soap, and her name was Virginia Helm. And she didn't come back. And 45 minutes later, her dad's going all over the place looking for her. And he can't find her. They never could find her. Then, about a day later, way up near the Ocala Forest, I guess it's, I don't know, somewhere on the north side of national parks up there. I don't know. There's a lot of acreage up there. Some couple saw him, this is 74, along the side of the road in a red Volkswagen. And they walk up to the car, and the little girl's eyes are going, she can't get off the floorboard. She's in the back of the car. They stopped because they thought the man needed assistance. It was pretty desolate back then. She said, oh, look, a Volkswagen's broken down. They walk over towards the car. They see the girl in the back. She seems like she cannot rise off the floorboard in the back of a Volkswagen. And they said that she looked exactly like Virginia Helms, and her eyes were darting back and forth. But if you've ever studied the phenomenon of getting whacked on the head, I've looked it up. Your eyes will dart up and down or side to side. And sometimes a wound is contained under the skin. You don't see blood necessarily right off because it come out of the ears or eyes, or nose even, but not right off. He just whacked her. So they go up to tell the guy he needs assistance. He drops a gym bag along that highway and he gets in the car and takes off. So nothing was wrong with the car, and they go on about their way. But they said they'd reported it because the little girl, they must have reported it because the little girl looked so much like Virginia Helms, they had to report it. It was a red Volkswagen. Debbie and I were in a red Volkswagen in 1967. So there's another clue. I could pay for and have the duffel bag tested for DNA along the shoulder strap or whatever. If they still retain it, I'll pay for that. I don't think it could cost that exorbitant. I mean, not like I have a boat or go on trips to Rome or something. I could pay for something one time in my life. So Debbie's daughters are living, friends from high school. Somebody knows about the ride. As a matter of fact, she even mentioned it. If you studied history of it, this says encounters. This is my teacher, a nurse. Debbie was a nurse. She went to the University of Gainesville. There's got to be some way. You can follow the scholarship. You can talk to Diane Edwards. Please, somebody. There must be somebody. You could solve a cold case possibly if you'll help. Please help. Study the scholarship. And don't say, well, way back in the day, some FBI agent that he signed in on such and such a date and he was there. And maybe somebody said, yeah, I think he was was he a roommate? Whatever. Well, whoever's telling that story is lie. And said, well, his parents dropped him off at the airport. As soon as they left, he could have turned around, got the rental. It was from Washington. The tag appeared to be white with black lettering, and his hair appeared to be very dark dark and kinky, like Tilly Fowler. Very helmet head, but it was cut neatly. But the tag could easily have been a very, very dark green. Look at how they did them tags way back in 67. Pull them up on eBay. Say, look at a Washington tag, and they'll give you a series of them because for some reason, they sell these old tags. And it didn't match Philadelphia. It didn't match California. And it didn't match. They were solid colors. Philadelphia, Florida, and California were solid colors. This was tan with what appeared to be black letter. It had a black border around it. I was getting ready to go on a trip. And what do we do whenever we're driving on a trip in the 60s? My mom says, look at the tags, see how many out-of-state tags you can see, and also how many cows you can count as you go by a pasture. So, yeah, okay. Anyway, I wanted to give these ideas. If there's anybody in this universe that can check this out, there was some kind of encounter in Florida way back in 67, and you follow it through to 78. And to me, it was just another freak that went by in our world. He displayed a gun. He was dangerous, but we got away. I'm going out of town. This is a 12-year-old mind. I'm going out of town. The course is only 3 days a week, which shows some intermittency, right? If he said, I'm going to go there Thursday, maybe we're not even there, Plus, Debbie's sister could have driven her in the couple, 2-3 days. And, I don't know. Well, I'm safe. You're not, but whatever. I'm probably sure I said, make sure Vicky drives you at least. Anyway. All right. somewhere someone could prove this, and if you can prove that early. Oh, and also the Gator Lodge. um, I went to the book mine and I bought The Stranger Beside Me, the last edition, because I called Ann Rule back in the day, and she says, was it 68? I said, no ma'am, it was 67. She says, well, what, because she wanted to see, well, he was in Florida in 68. How did he get to and from Florida in 68? Anyway, the Gator Lodge was a family owned motel on Phillips Highway at the interstate. This is on the south side, owned by a guy named Tony something, but he changed his name to King, Samuel King. And Susan King, Sam King and Susan King were the owners, and they had one daughter in 61 and then maybe another daughter in 62, 63. Okay. So I'm at the book mine buying this used edition, but a later edition of The Stranger Beside Me, possibly the last edition. She died in 2015. Oh, how I wish I could talk to the Carlisle, Ann Rule, and Mr. Klepper, but they're gone. Even Mr. Thompson is gone. They're all gone, And then you have the Kleiner woman. You see, this bothers me. But anyway, because we were just kids. We're just, like the girl said, we went to see what kind of trouble we could get into, and we got some pretty bad trouble. On my other videos, you can see the encounter. So anyway, the Gator Lodge, I bought the book. I'm checking out. There's a little girl, kind of looked like Tina Fey, but small, And she says, oh, my mom met him when she was a little girl. She grew up in the Gator Lodge. I said, the one on Fifth. She said, yeah, my grandparents owned the Gator Lodge. And she spontaneously said that. There was people in the line behind me, and I said, wow. Because I'm figuring, yeah, he's all over Jacksonville, probably during 78. And she says she met him when she was a little girl. Well, they let go of that property and moved to San Jose Manor in 72. And then they sold the entire complex, a motel, in 74. I have the records. I went downtown to see when she sold it to Charles Knowles et al. 74. So the Gator Lodge was gone. Then I put it on Next Door Neighbor. Said, anybody have any recollection of Bundy, particularly Gator Lodge or something? The girl calls, her name was Chris Carpenter. She said, yeah, my mom talked about it. She's way over in Cedar Hills. Has nothing to do with San Jose Manor. Has nothing to do with Heckscher, where Linda King lives. I don't know where Lisa King is, and I don't know which of the daughters it is. But if you say when she was a child, that's 7 or 8, right? So that would have been 68, 69. Could have been maybe he was coming back from it doesn't matter. He had 2, and the girl Chris, Crys, says, my mom said he was at the Gator Lodge, and I didn't know if it was 78. When was he at the Gator Lodge? And her mom says, yes, he was either seeing a friend or a lover. And then I told you Mrs. Hogue, Debbie's mom, was an entertainer. She played at Mayport. She played at the Heart of Jacksonville. Some of this stuff could be easily investigated. So, well, we don't want to hurt people that are already fragile. That's fine and well. But if there's a homicide, that takes precedence over that. The entire iteration of 78, he left Tallahassee in an orange Volkswagen, okay? I think he was trying to recreate the fact that we got away. Now, did he kill before us? Probably so. He probably killed the Annborough. Why do they always say he was around construction? Because Jeb Stewart was near construction because they were building an entire subdivision there. And they said, well, how did he get to Florida? Why was he in Florida? I think he did 1 or 2 years of school from 65 on. Now it's summer 67. He's sick of school. The fancy people that he always wanted to be like were having summer vacations. Spring break. And spring break then was Fort Lauderdale and Daytona. I think he came this way, ran out of funds, and then was doing under the table labor work, carpentry, landscaping, whatever you call it. They were cutting trees and clearing it for the subdivision. It was just over the bend. It was just over the road. Jeb Stewart was around the block from Confederate Point, which is 3 sides is water, and construction, and 3 sides is water. And he could have very easily. And when he took off and went down Blanding, he went towards town when we were at Harlow and Blanding, and he dropped us off at that gas station. Theodore Bundy. Just move the books. Just move the books. Okay, thank you.